I know you're an athlete, a PhD holder, you're running your own company. What keeps you motivated? Like when you get up in the morning, what keeps you get going?
I'd say my motivation comes from 2 or 3 different places. I think definitely I have met through my travels and stay and studies and work, I've met this amazing set of people throughout the world, and I think that in understanding the sources of their resilience or how they have led their lives, those stories stay with me for a very long time. And every year, I think the motivation changes a little bit. It's either a new goal, like this year I did a week-long bike ride, which was extremely difficult for me, and or another year it was the Ultraman, another year it was finishing 3 Ironmans in a certain time, so it could be a performance goal, it could be I want to be on this continent. So with sport it changes, and with business obviously it is about creating value. We've never done the outsourcing, we've never gone down the outsourcing road. So I think that for us every day is a high, because we meet so many different people, and all coming from India, very much from Bangalore or from Hyderabad or from Chennai or Bombay now. And I think if you like people, entrepreneurship is a great way to find validation, because you just meet this amazing set of people and there's no dearth of motivation really. I'm surrounded by very realistic, a very realistic family that, when I say realistic, I mean there's no space to be a diva. You have to be a normal person. so that keeps me motivated, because the simple pleasures of life, to wake up, to have a certain routine, and the conversations are always witty and fun, and so it a lot of sources of motivation for me.
What do you think of the startup scene in India, the entrepreneurship scene in India?
See, as a Bangalorean, I'm very proud of the fact that most of us don't know how to hold day jobs. We would rather be our own bosses, and I'm very proud of that. And I think she's right in her assessment of how Bangalore thinks as a community. That being said, I think also that the startup scene is very vibrant, no doubt. But at the same time, I think for the people that are slightly further along or have been in the game for a decade, me included in that set, I think it also behooves us to give the contrary opinion, even though it's not the popular opinion, about the things to be considered before you walk down this path. It's not all glamour and TV shows, and it's not all about the flashbulbs. There is also a very, very hard road that you have to go through before establishing yourself, before creating a sustainable business that runs itself, before understanding how to sort of be malleable as the market moves in different directions. So I think it behooves people like us and everybody that has seen what is happening in the last year, decade and a half, to also tell the up-and-coming entrepreneurs that, look, these are 2 or 3 things that you absolutely must think about, and it's not all about the blockbuster companies. You also have to understand what value it creates for you. If you love being independent, you love buying your mom gifts, and you would like some spare change for that, by all means, go ahead and be an entrepreneur. But also know that there is a much longer road ahead of you than just the 2 minutes of fame, or the 5 years of running after something that may or may not come back. So it's a high risk venture, and that's something that I think it's worth saying it at least once, so that so that people understand that it's not all about the flashbulbs. So that there has to be an element of truth. And that being said, I think people are still very hardy. I love the fact that most of our innovators today that walk into our offices even are very young, and they know exactly what they want, and that's very gratifying to see after 7 years, 8 years of looking at different kinds of businesses come and go through your doors. So yeah.
So Anu, what's your story behind Patent Marks? How did it start, and what was the idea behind it?
So Patent Marks started as a product company. We built a database of granted IP, be it trademarks or patents or whatever within India. And mostly today, if you do a search for granted patents or patents that are sort of in process, you will find a couple of websites like Big Patents, or there are a couple of different websites, but most of them are bibliographic in their information. And we try to sort of veer away from that and create a value-added service for searches. So suppose you came up with a new idea for an ergonomic bicycle, then you could also do a search through our database to see if that has already been done in India, for example. That was the idea. But after 2 years, I quickly realized that in this economy, IP is a privilege, and you have to treat it very carefully. You cannot go to a client and say, please use my product because I've built it. That's stupid, right? You have to really go and say, look, this is the value I see for you as far as IP is concerned, or maybe there is no value for you, and you have to be bold enough to say that. And after the first 2 years, I kind of became of the mindset that I never wanted external funding, that I would be somebody that espoused the values of self-reliance as I have through the rest of my life, and other stories that I've sort of gone through in my life. And I don't need to make it a different story for my business. And I'm very proud to say that has worked, and that's what I mean when I say that there is a whole bandwidth of businesses. It's not just the biggest guy, and it's not just the biggest name that you really have to focus on. Because India especially, if you walk into even a little store, you see so many hardy business people. They are all business people. They're all entrepreneurs. It's your mom, your dad, your the people that probably drive your cars, that do all these things. Whether you want to acknowledge them or not, that's a separate issue. But I think I would say that for me, as far as Patent Marks is concerned, it started off as a products company. Then it sort of moved on to providing value-added services to up-and-coming professionals. We steered very clear of outsourcing. We said that is not what we want to do, no matter how much money there is in it. And today we have the good fortune of knowing that our name is associated with the brightest companies in India, right? And that is real gratification. It's not, because nobody can take that away. So I think that's the story behind Patent Marks, I would say. Yeah.
All right, Anu, and ours is a college-based website, and we focus especially on entrepreneurship. So what would your advice be to the young entrepreneurs?
I would say that with any adventure that you take up in your life, be it entrepreneurship or running your 5th marathon or 6th marathon or 1st marathon, always treat it with respect. There's a lot of pluses and minuses that are going to come and go with time, and it is really your prerogative to decide how long you're in the game. And never ever feel that if you have to step back in your life, take a step back and reassess and come back to something, that's a failure. That is not a failure. That's actually the mark of exceptional maturity. If you have that much self-awareness to sort of say that, look, I've tried something, it's not quite going the way I thought it would, I need to take a step back. That's actually a very mature decision. And I think also the thing that I would say is the only equation you need to keep in mind as an entrepreneur is that you have to create a product or service that has value, that you yourself would buy or use. You have to have a price tag, because obviously you cannot say, what do you think it's worth? That does not work. And when you add up these two, you make what is hopefully a profit after you've established yourself and people understand the value of what you're providing. And trust me, with time, if you really stick to it and you don't give up, and your value proposition is clear, that there will be people that take it up, and there is no and yes, I mean, I have known people that have had wonderful products and wonderful ideas fail. But as I said, failure is also a part of what you're sort of signing up for. When you start on an adventure, nobody can guarantee you and say, this is done. It's not done. It's never done. Even for me, it's never. It's not yet done. So, I think you have to treat it as a gradual story, and you have to love the story. You have to love the characters. You have to have a bit of awareness about how your path is evolving compared to what you thought would be the evolution. So if you have all of these things in your mind, it's a wonderful experience, right? It's a wonderful experience, but at the same time, you have to value the employees as well. It's not just the one. For us, I think we love painting black or white stories. You're either an entrepreneur or you're just a member of the herd. It's not like that. Every entrepreneur still needs a team. So you very much have to, work out of a notion of respect when it comes to people. And I would say that if you have that, and you have a lot of self-confidence, and you have a never say die attitude, and you're smart enough to turn a business, you have to turn a business. It cannot be just that you're investing in something and never seeing the light of day. That's not a good indication. And you have to be brutally honest with yourself as to where you're spending your time, your resources, and most of all, your extremely precious creative energy. So I think if you have that in your mind, then you're good to go, really. And all the best. I would say all the best. Try it. Definitely try it. Run a scam. Be a hustler. It's a great feeling. So.
And Anu, last question. Are you a gadget freak? And if yes, which is your favorite gadget?
Am I a gadget freak? Actually, I'm one of those engineers that cannot fix a light bulb with a gun to her head. But that being said, yes, I do love gadgets. I use, I'm not a huge consumer junkie, so if there's a latest version of a phone, I'm not going to go buy it. But I absolutely love my Samsung Note. Although the camera is really bad, I still love it, and I would not trade it for anything in the world. So, yeah, I enjoy using it too. So, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Anu. Thank you so much for your time.